landslide has debilitated traffic between northern and eastern Taiwan. TSMC posts record profit, but the outlook isn't rosy. Stagnant wages. Taiwan's average salary slightly shrinks as rising prices bite consumers' wallets. A cautionary voice. A former U.S. official says Taipei and Washington must do more to deter China from attacking Taiwan. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Authorities are rushing to clear the road that connects the north and east of the country after a landslide hit late Wednesday night. It's a race against time to clear the path before the busy Lunar New Year holiday. Completely crushed. That's the only way to describe this portion of highway on Taiwan's east coast after a landslide fell here late Wednesday night. A roughly 25-meter area is covered in rocks and debris. Luckily, no one was hurt. Still, this is bad news. This stretch of highway is part of the vital artery between northern and eastern Taiwan. Even worse, this crucial thoroughfare was severed just a week before the busy Lunar New Year holiday, and people in Taiwan love to go to the East Coast for their breaks. But the problems here go beyond ruining vacations. There's also logistical concerns. Trucks carrying food and supplies can't get to where they need to go.
我来的时候，前面半小时就瘫了，然后警察就叫我不要过去，我就在那边，我就是第一台啊。
只有一条路，就是从那个南回。哎，对，南回要差不多12个小时。
Taiwan's railway authority has stepped in to help. Trains down the east coast are still operational. They have also increased the frequency of train services to assist the movement of goods and vehicles.
启动这个蔬果北运的机制，也就是卡车上平车的。
The rock slide happened around the 159-kilometer mark of Taiwan's provincial Highway 9. There are a couple of alternate routes that cut in and out of Taiwan's mountains, but bigger vehicles can only circle around the west side of the island as a detour. That can double or in some cases triple travel time. A primary reason infrastructure in this part of Taiwan is so limited is because of treacherous terrain. Eastern Taiwan is full of cliffs that have steep drop-offs, so building roads here is difficult. And volatile weather combined with rough geography means traffic halting landslides are relatively common. Highway authorities are rushing to clear the debris. They're aiming to resume traffic by January 15th. But with a busy travel season coming up, the race is on to get things moving again. Taiwanese chip manufacturing giant TSMC made record profits in the fourth quarter of 2022. The world's most advanced maker of semiconductors posted profits of 295 billion Taiwan dollars, or around 9.7 billion US dollars. That's 78% more than in the same period last year. The revenue was mainly driven by TSMC's most advanced chips of 7 nanometers or lower. The smaller the nanometer, the more advanced the semiconductor. But the company did signal a warning. They expect weaker demand to trigger a downturn in the industry this year.
For the full year of 2023, we forecast the semiconductor market, excluding memory, to decline approximately 4%. While foundry industry is forecast to decline 3%.
To find out more about TSMC's latest results and the implications for Taiwan's economy, our reporter James Chater spoke to Gary Ng, an economist with Natixis Research based in Hong Kong.
What are the key takeaways from TSMC's latest data, and what are the implications for Taiwan's wider chip industry?
I think the outlook is indeed not that optimistic, simply because I think there is indeed a expectation of a falling revenue in the coming quarter, which is the first time since the first quarter of 2020 after this massive boom of TSMC. So I think all of it points to this weakening demand on a global level, that consumers are not buying as many electronics products as before because of this high interest rate, and this high interest rate is likely likely to stay elevated for a while. So for the chip industry, it will need to brace for at least another 6 months of the downturn of the tech cycle as more consumers deter from buying more electronics products, and corporate will cut their export orders because they want to use the inventory first.
TSMC is expecting this downturn over the course of 2023, and this comes as Taiwan's posting weaker export data and chips essential to that as well. What does this all mean for Taiwan's economy writ large over the course of 2023, do you think?
It means that in the next 1 or 2 quarters, definitely there's quite severe headwind in the electronic sector, which is definitely the major growth driver of the Taiwanese external sectors and also export. So this does not bode well for the ongoing investment boom because firms will start to delay the investment plan. So what it means is that it's quite likely to see that Taiwan economy will actually decelerate from 3.2% last year to around 2.6% this year. It's not a recessionary scenario, but this also means that there will be a divergence between export versus the domestic demand.
That was our reporter James Chater speaking with Gering Ying from Natixis Research in Hong Kong. Prices in Taiwan are rising fast and wages cannot keep up. Government statistics show the average worker has effectively taken a pay cut since last year because of inflation. And soaring food prices are biting particularly hard ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next week. Stash Butler has the story.
The humble chicken cutlet, just the latest victim of Taiwan's ballooning food prices. When costs appeared to rise at this Taipei food joint, customers took to the internet to complain. But many have already become resigned to a higher cost of living.
通膨吃掉是一点啊，但是认真讲，像我们自己连想存钱都不想存，根本买房买车也不用想。
是有觉得薪水涨了，物价也跟着涨。
People in Taiwan earned an annual wage of about $16,300 in the first 11 months of 2021. That rose to about $16,700 last year. But retail prices rose too. And once you account for that, the average person was actually a little worse off in 2022. Wholesale food prices have risen more than most, and restaurant owners say that they're struggling.
以过年前这一段期间呢，是最辛苦的时候。往年我们都没有遇到这种说涨幅这么大的时候。
Wholesale prices for vegetables have jumped by almost 50% ahead of the holiday. Eggs are also more than 20% more expensive, while the cost of pork and chicken has risen by 10%. Charities working with poor families say more and more people are coming to them for help.
帮忙的至少我想应该都有多2-3成吧。那有一些人是真的没办法生活，底层就是生活很辛苦啦。
Economists expect inflation to ease up this year, but the damage to wages is already done. On paper, Taiwan got a pay rise in 2022, but multiple price hikes have left people feeling worse off than before. Howard Zhang and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
A high-ranking former U.S. official is urging Washington and Taipei to show China it would lose if it were to start a war over Taiwan. Matt Pottinger was Deputy National Security Advisor in the Trump administration. He's visiting Taipei and spoke at National Zhengzhi University on Thursday. Pottinger says the main danger facing Taiwan is if China's leader Xi Jinping becomes too optimistic about China's chance of winning a war over Taiwan.
The common goal that we must have is to pierce that sense of optimism in Beijing that a war can be easy, that it can achieve the goals Beijing wants to achieve, and that it would be short. I think that that would be a grave misjudgment by Beijing. But it will not work to deter him unless we make very, very clear over and over again why he should think that that is a misjudgment and no longer be so optimistic.
For more on Pottinger's visit to Taiwan, our reporter Stash Butler spoke to Lev Knockman, a political scientist at the National Zhengzhi University.
And what's the significance of Matt Pottinger coming to Taiwan now? I mean, we know in 2020 he sent a video message congratulating President Tsai on her re-election. What does his visit, his coming here now, mean at this point for U.S.-Taiwan ties?
So, you know, right now he's just a civilian. He doesn't have a government position, but he's still an important figure because of how influential he's been on China policy in the past. And even though currently Republicans are not in control of the presidency in the United States, there's a non-zero chance that in the future, Matt Pottinger could have a position of authority in the United States government going forward. So, it's important for Taiwan to not just maintain good relations with someone like Matt Pottinger, but it's good for Matt Pottinger himself to have on-the-ground experience here, getting to know Taiwan, firsthand, and getting to meet with politicians, academics, and advisors here as well.
And what's been the thrust of his various addresses, his speeches to people around Taiwan so far?
I think it's a couple of things. I think first it's a reassurance of, the rock solid relationship that the United States holds with Taiwan. Matt Pottinger was, constantly reminding the room of not just America's commitment, but that it's a bipartisan commitment. And it's something that, one of the few things that Democrats and Republicans really agree on. But he also made a lot of notes about, a lot of problems that we know do exist. The need for military reform, the need for defense reform, and the need for better communication, not just within Taiwan, but also between Taiwan and the United States.
And he's praised Taiwan's COVID response, which obviously Taiwan kept COVID largely outside of the country for a good year and a half. He also has, historically, he's praised Taiwan's approach to same-sex marriage while working for a party in Washington that traditionally opposed same-sex marriage and has been accused, at least, of bungling its COVID response when COVID hit America in 2020. How do you view that?
It's complicated, to say the least. Someone like Matt Pottinger, who has excellent policies for China and Taiwan and is a known friend of Taiwan, can acknowledge how these things exist in Taiwan in an incredibly positive light. Even just today at Zhengda, during his speech, Matt Pottinger spent a non-trivial amount of time praising Taiwan for its gender equality, for its women leadership, and for passing marriage equality for the LGBTQ community here in Taiwan. And I would love for more Republican allies of Taiwan to not just say those things out loud, but to, remind the bipartisan support back in the United States that these are part of Taiwan's values as well.
That was political scientist Lev Knockman speaking to our reporter, Stash Butler. Taiwan's Air Force is conducting exercises which are designed to practice scrambling aircraft swiftly and defending the skies above Taiwan. During the drills, the military made public an exchange program with NATO and says cooperation between the two sides has been going on for some time. Jaime Okan reports.
Mirage 2000 fighter jets and their aircrew, busy running drills on how to quickly take off and intercept enemy warplanes. The aircraft, stationed in Taiwan's northern Hsinchu County, are still staging these exercises, while the rest of the country is getting ready for the holiday season. Even though Taiwan is preparing to celebrate the Lunar New Year next week, the military says that no matter the dates, the country's armed forces must always be on alert.
接下来再过1周之后就是即将过年，相信我们这个空军的各个部队都会陆力在战训本务，给予国人一个平安的这个环境，让大家过一个好年。
These pilots are one of the first lines of defense for the country's airspace. They often scramble to intercept Chinese warplanes, which operate around Taiwan almost daily, regularly breaching the country's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. This area isn't Taiwan's airspace, but it stands as a buffer zone for defensive purposes. When asked about a recent increase in incursions from China, this is what the military had to say.
相信除了新竹基地以外，台湾的各个战斗机联队都随时保持着待命，而且我们在依照我们每日的这个飞行动态，都有相关的这个飞行序列在空中执行。那各项如果遭遇到突发状况，我们都会依照空中部的战术管制的引导，以及各项的这个战备规定来做应处。那最主要就是维持我们的领空的安全及国家安全。
During the exercises, this pilot also revealed that Taiwan was sending service people abroad to learn how other countries defend themselves. The military says they've been enrolling personnel in NATO's Defense College in Italy for 6 months projects. They claim they have been doing this for, quote, years. Taiwan's military has regular exchanges and joint training programs with its biggest ally, the United States. But it has rarely made public military exchanges with other countries and organizations.
那台湾所扮演的角色是在一个印太局势中一个很关键的一个角色。那当然，各国家的学员，他们对于现在的这个区域局势相当感兴趣。
With the Lunar New Year just days away, Taiwan hopes that these exercises will not only boost its combat readiness, but also assure its citizens that their country's military is on alert year-round. Damon Lin and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said that an increase in Chinese military activity near the Taiwan Strait does not mean an invasion of Taiwan is imminent.
We've seen increased activity, aerial activity in the Straits. We've seen increased surface vessel activity around Taiwan. And again, we believe that they endeavor to establish a new normal, but whether or not that means that an invasion is imminent, I seriously doubt that.
Austin was speaking at a joint defense summit with Japanese officials on Wednesday. U.S. President Joe Biden is set to meet with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Friday to discuss regional security. Austin's comments come just days after the U.S. said it plans to deploy a rapid response force equipped with missiles to the Japanese islands of Okinawa. The United States and South Korea say they will hold tabletop military exercises next month to better prepare and counter nuclear threats from North Korea. South Korea's defense officials confirmed on Wednesday that the two sides have been working on joint nuclear planning. The two countries say they are also trying to enhance information sharing. The announcement comes amid speculation over a possible nuclear test from North Korea, which would be the country's first since 2017. Pyongyang says it wants to exponentially improve its weapons program. Coming up, from garbage to gold, a former waste incineration plant is transformed into a tea drinker's haven. Stay with us.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world. Charted by the freest country in Asia.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ian Kavat. Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC
public buses to be electric by 2030.
A mission that begins with listening.
And telling the stories of Taiwan.
In Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Drawing insight from original thinkers.
And sharing it with the world. TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
You don't have to run a marathon to get stories from Taiwan and around the world. To do that, just get the TaiwanPlus app. Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Former Hsinchu Mayor Ling Zijian appeared in court on Wednesday in the latest chapter of one of several plagiarism scandals to impact Taiwanese politics. Ling's master's thesis was revoked in August after a university committee concluded he likely plagiarized the work of another student, Yu Zhenhuang. Now, Yu has sued Ling, accusing him of copyright violation. The case also forced Ling to withdraw from the mayoral race in the city of Taoyuan. This is one of a string of plagiarism cases involving political figures in Taiwan over the past year, which derailed several local election campaigns. Taiwan's egg production has fallen significantly in recent weeks, the result of an increase in bird flu. The shortage has caused a sharp rise in the price of eggs. Jeremy Olivier reports on what this means for Taiwan's consumers and businesses.
Being careful not to break what's already in short supply. Egg prices are rising amid a shortage brought on by a spike in avian flu, as demand for the daily staple remains high. The situation is not just impacting consumers, but those further up the supply chain as well. It's been less than a year since the last egg shortage in Taiwan. Production of the commodity fell off in February 2022. Bird flu was also behind that event, as was the skyrocketing price of animal feed ingredients. But it's not just Taiwan that's now running out of eggs. The US and New Zealand have also reported waves of bird flu knocking out their egg-laying hen populations. Social media users in those countries are posting photos and videos of grocery store shelves empty of eggs. Back in Taiwan, it's expected that demand for eggs will decrease after the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday, and with it, egg prices. But for now, Taiwanese consumers will need to dig deep into their pockets for this particular food item. Andy Xue and Jeremy Olivier for TaiwanPlus.
Authorities in central Taiwan's Changhua County have announced plans to move high-polluting factories away from agricultural areas. Factories producing iron and steel will have to relocate to a newly established industrial zone after an environmental impact assessment. Changhua County is one of Taiwan's main industrial hubs. It houses over 600 factories with an annual output of more than $1.6 billion. 80% of the county's heavy industry overlaps with farmland, causing severe environmental impacts to local agriculture. Questions remain regarding the new industrial park's waste management system.
全方位的都开发起来的话，我相信它的废弃物量还是会不少的哈。尽量不要让这些系列废弃物进到各县市的垃圾文化场。
A new eco park has opened in southwestern Taiwan. The garden will allow visitors to learn more about Taiwan's ecology. Sally Jensen reports.
This is Alishan chrysanthemum, a flower popular among Taiwan's tea drinkers. Its aroma is sweet, quite different from what scented the air here before. This site in the plains of southwestern Taiwan used to be a waste incineration plant, but it's been transformed into an educational eco-park.
今天特别发表，把阿里山的邮局整个互译到我们这个园区里面来。
A local university decided to renovate the disused incineration plant. It's now an academic industrial project aimed at restoring biodiversity. It's also a public leisure zone showcasing the budding flora. Besides chrysanthemum tea, organic cosmetics and soaps are being sold here.
透过地方创生的手段，能够让我们的乡亲可以因为这样的一个互译成功而得到利益。
Native to Taiwan, the flower normally grows at Alishan Mountains' higher altitudes. But where industry once laid soil to waste in the city suburbs is now a sea of gold, where residents can enjoy a cup of Alishan chrysanthemum brew while surrounded by a testament to transformation and renewal. Howard Chang and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
What would it take for you to run 700 kilometers in Arctic temperatures? Well, for Tommy Chen, it's about overcoming challenges he's faced before. I found out more about the Taiwanese man who's braving what's billed as the toughest ultramarathon in the world for the second time. Grueling terrain, limited sunlight, and temperatures as low as -50 degrees Celsius. These are just some of the conditions that await those who dare to challenge the Yukon Arctic Ultra. It's billed as the world's toughest ultramarathon. Participants go in knowingly running the risk of suffering frostbite and even amputation. But ultrarunner Tommy Chen is willing to take his chances. The 36-year-old has made a name for himself after running through some of Earth's harshest environments. Chen plans to take part in the Yukon Ultra's 430-mile event next month. That's almost 700 kilometers of frigid temperatures. It won't be Chen's first time on the tundra. He completed the race 10 years ago, but the experience was so intense it left him with post-traumatic stress disorder.
日照时间只有7小时，夜晚时间是17到18小时，所以真正最困难的就是心理的挑战。很多选手崩溃就是在第3天到第4天之后左右开始，那到第7天的时候是非常痛苦跟极端的时候。
Chen is throwing himself into an extraordinary training regimen. Last year, he ran over 400 kilometers around Taiwan, pulling a poke sled behind him to simulate the race. He's also lifting weights to build strength. But the event is not only about physical endurance. It's just as much of a test of mental fortitude.
以前比较没有办法长时间的去独处，然后跟自己对话。那这场比赛因为要连续大概预计要9天到11天左右才能够去完成，然后都是一个人，所以我这次的心态调整是试着跟大自然去对话，然后试着去跟自己对话。
Last time, it took Chen 10 days and 15 hours to finish the trail. This time around, he's looking to do even better. But really, running 700 kilometers in the Arctic snow is an impressive feat all its own. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, we leave you with images of Minghua Yuan Arts and Cultural Group from Taiwan performing a classical Taiwanese opera. Doesn't get much more Taiwanese than that. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.